On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has absolutely obliterated its opening weekend projections. Flash already has a script written for a sequel that they probably won't ever use. Also, the projections are suggesting now that Fast X is ultimately not going to break even at the box office and is probably going to lose money. Big news, the Directors Guild of America has reached a deal with the producers and studios while the WGA is still on strike. Disney fires the director of Lightyear and 74 other Pixar employees. That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and this show is brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. And it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, and streaming, all sorts of good things. Not just giving you our opinions, but giving you information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or completely different from ours. Joining me here today, we got the full crew. We got Ray Ora back there.
Hey.
We got Jonathan Voico.
Hello.
Chris Carr is in the house.
Hi, guys.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you guys so much for joining us and making this podcast a part of your day. And here's how the show's going to go. We're going to spend the first part of the show talking about those predetermined topics we just listed off. Then in the last part of the show, we're going to take questions from our YouTube channel members. For those of you who don't know, we do have a YouTube channel. And on that channel, we have channel members. And every day we ask our channel members if they have some topics or questions they'd like us to address on the show. And we get through just as many of those as we can. All right. That all down, let's get started off with this. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. My God, what a movie. We made a video about this earlier today, but I did an open spoiler discussion this weekend, and I don't think I have ever done an open spoiler discussion where I've had the sheer number of people, and again, I'm not saying there were hundreds of them, but the sheer number of people who wrote in to either say things like, this is now my favorite comic book movie of all time, and even a number of them saying things like, this is now my favorite movie ever. I mean, again, I'm sure there are people who think that with various movies they've seen. I've heard people say it before, but I've never seen it said like with the numbers, the sheer numbers that people said it with this one, which is incredible. Anyway, the movie is opened up. They were projecting $80 to $90 million opening weekend, which was already double to triple the amount that the first Spider-Verse movie made back in 2018 when it opened to $35 million. So even if it had opened to 80 or to 90, that would have been a staggering success. Huge. However, we mentioned this on the video earlier, that those projections were made before the word of mouth started getting out. Like when actual audiences started to see it and started to talk about it. And we said on this show last week, I said, it's going to blow past that 90 million. I say it's going to be 110 million. Well, I was right. It did go past the 90. But Ray and Jonathan were more right, because whereas I said it's going to exceed it, I said 110. They had a one up me. Ray said 119. Jonathan said 120. Yeah, and the actual box office result
Well
was
done with those Price of Rights rules.
$120.5 million.
But you got to take credit for a little bit, because whatever you say, my rule is always go 10 above him or 10 below him, depending on how I feel about the movie. So you know what? You built that a little bit, and then I just stood on top of you.
And then my rule is go one above or one below.
One above whatever Ray says.
Yeah.
And sure enough, 120.5 million. Well done, Spider-Man.
Well deserved.
Pew, pew, pew.
You know, I put out our daily newsletter. For those of you who don't know, we put out a daily newsletter for the John Campea Show. Go and subscribe to it today. But I wrote in it today, it's always nice as a film fan to see an excellent movie make money. Because very often in this business, we see great movies, sometimes Oscar-winning movies that don't make any money. Meanwhile, we see some movies that are absolute dog crap that end up undeservingly making the money that better films should have got. It's just kind of nice when the universe aligns and we see movies that are awesome actually make money. And listen, that makes this movie the second biggest opening weekend of the year, ahead of Fast X, which made 67 million opening, John Wick Chapter 4, which made 73, The Little Mermaid, which made 95. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which made 106. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which made 118. And that put in the number 2 spot Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse with 120.5, only trailing the Super Mario Brothers movie, which opened with an enormous 146 million. And by the way, little piece of trivia, as of right now, nearly halfway through the year, the 2 biggest opening weekend films of the year are both animated films. So Bob Chapek, smoke on that, since apparently people don't care about animated films. Anyway, this is absolutely incredible. And on top of that, the critic rating is holding at 95%. The audience rating is holding at 96%. This is incredible. And it even brought up the question. We did a Mint Mobile question earlier today on the YouTube channel. Somebody asked, what are the Oscar chances for this? Not Best Animated Feature, which is now an automatic shoo-in, but Best Picture. And I think despite the fact that the Oscars have always been too cowardly to nominate many nominated or animated films, because it only happened 3 times in history, 1997 with Beauty and the Beast, 2009 with Up, 2010 with Toy Story 3, and never since. I think it'll happen this year. Anyway, Chris, we all thought this movie was going to be big.
Yeah.
It went beyond almost all the expectations. An incredible result for this quirky little $100 million film that has this very different kind of animation style and blowing past what it made previously. What's your takeaway from this?
Oh, yeah, it's made so much more than the last film, because that one came in at 190 million domestically.
Oh, overall.
Overall.
Right.
So this is already going to blow that out of the water. They've recouped the cost of making it. This is such a big win for Sony, and it's such a big win for animation. This movie pushes boundaries so much. Not only is it just an interesting animation style, there are so many different animation styles within it. The fact that you can look at Spider-Punk and see 6 different things happening at one time, the chaos, it's incredible. I'm so thrilled about this. It is well-deserved to have that critic score. It is so well-deserved to have that audience score. More and more people are going to come see this, I think, because this is one, too, that I think really, really begs to be rewatched on that big screen. There's so many Easter eggs. There's so many great moments. There's even little things where you can see animation kind of repeating itself in a way that you see Miles growing and changing as a Spider-Man, coming into his own. Oh, I love this movie so much. It's so good.
I finally see it tonight.
I'm so excited
That's right.
for you.
Jonathan hasn't even seen this movie yet.
Tonight at
gosh.
6.
That's
We've been trying to
fantastic.
tiptoe around how much we talk about the movie because Jonathan has not had a chance to see it yet. Ray, I mean, look, obviously I can't ask you if you're surprised by the result because you did call 119. But honestly, what do you think about the result they got here? Deserved, not deserved? How big can it be?
It could get really big because I talked to some people this weekend that haven't even seen it yet.
Yeah.
So it's just the ball's just going to keep rolling. I don't expect a big drop off this weekend, no matter what's coming out. It
doesn't have a lot of competition.
It's after that where we might see a little bit. But you know what? You guys went to go see it again the same day. You and Ann.
Yep,
right?
bought tickets for later that night.
There's a lot of people that are going to do the same. As soon as they watch it the first time, they're going to go back and, so who knows where this can go? I have no predictions, but it's already won, right? You consider this a win,
It's a win. Yeah, it's already done. And you know what? Here's the other interesting thing. Somebody wrote in when I was doing the open spoiler discussion this weekend. They said, hey, is it about, LeBron James said after they won their last NBA title with the Lakers, he said, put some damn respect on my name, right? Somebody wrote in during the open spoiler discussion and asked that, is it about time? Do we need to start putting some respect on Sony's name? Because now, I've said this before, but even though Disney has made some wonderful Spider-Man movies with Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home, I really enjoy. John Watts did such a great job directing those films. They're wonderful, wonderful films. I love them. But it's not Disney. Sony has made the not one, not two, but now 3 best Spider-Man movies with Sam Raimi's great film Spider-Man 2, Into the Spider-Verse, now Across the Spider-Verse. It's about time we start putting some respect. Is this going to start changing some people's perspectives
I think so.
on Sony here and how they handle their material?
Absolutely. It should. It should. If winning truly cures everything, this should do
That's
it.
right.
Because if we look at Disney's track record as of late, honestly, it's not that great. And I'm sure there's also a quantity versus quality issue here too, right? Disney is churning out a lot more things than Sony
Yes.
is too. But let us not forget also, I'm always bring it up, the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man game is amongst the best stories ever. And that is also Sony. So they are killing it with the Spider-Man content. And really, they are doing a fabulous job with their properties too. Disney should honestly take a page from them and go, whoa, wait, those characters that we lovingly made a deal with you, could you help us maybe a little bit?
But I would say it's a split because they're shining when Spider-Man is there.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's the
But
big thing when you have the Spider-Verse.
The
and-
Spiderless Spider-Verse is also kind of like, no. And if Craven's great,
Except for Venom.
Yeah,
Venom
but
made
if-
over
Venom's fine.
$800 million and
and if Craven's great, or even good, just good, then that kind of washes the stain of Morbius out.
That's true.
But if it's on the level of Morbius,
Yeah.
then it's like, okay.
yeah,
well,
then you're right back to square one.
This whole thing, though, of taking
Oh, I
Spider-Man
would've-
characters and not having Spider-Man there and then trying to make them anti-heroes or whatever the hell Morbius is supposed to be, a doctor without morals or borders. I don't know. Like, I don't. Craven, I'm still on the fence about.
Yeah.
And as I've told you, I've heard a lot of bad things from people who've been working on Craven of that it just is a mess.
But
when they've got Spider-Man.
But I'll slap respect on anything Spider-Man they do. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah. Except
did-
for like, you
I
know,
liked what they showed us of
Yeah.
Craven at
Yep.
CinemaCon. I did. I liked what we saw.
It was fun, fast footage.
It was fun, fast footage.
But is
Yes.
there a story?
Well, yeah,
From
they
what I
weren't
hear,
giving away
the
a
story
lot.
is there's no story.
They weren't giving away a lot at that little
Side
kind
note.
of glimpse at it, but we'll see. All right. We need to move on here. Let's get on to this next thing here. Staying in the world of the comic book films, of course, another fantastic comic book movie is coming out, Flash. Now, we talked about this. Again, we made a video about this, a short video on it on the YouTube channel earlier, but Flash is coming out. It's got a lot of things working against it, right? The DC popularity has trended downwards seriously, with Black Adam not even making $400 million, despite the fact that it had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in it, and they literally developed it for 15 years. Then Shazam 2 came out, and it became the biggest flop in the history of the big comic book box office era. It didn't even make it didn't even make $175 million worldwide. In an era where comic book movies are making that opening weekend domestically, it could not, it is the de facto biggest flop in the history of the big comic book films. Add on top of that all the Ezra Miller nonsense. So I still don't really know how Flash is going to do at the box office, but I do know the movie is great. And give all credit where it's due, it's fantastic. Now, a report has come out, thanks to Variety, that I guess DC was so happy with the development of Flash, they commissioned the writing of a sequel, and it's already done. They had already written the sequel for it. Now, the Aquaman screenwriter, David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, who I don't know why he has four names, but that's fine. No judgment.
Love that for
no
him.
judgment. Has already written the script. Now, it's also being mentioned that it is very unlikely it's going to get made, given the fact that we have James Gunn and Peter Safran, that looks like they're going to be changing all of DC, starting with Superman Legacy coming in 2025. It is interesting. And they said that Michael Keaton's Batman was going to be one of the centerpieces of it. And Supergirl Sasha
Kaye.
was going to be centered in it as well. I have some thoughts on that, having seen The Flash, but I'll leave that aside for a second. Interesting. So again, that kind of brings up the question, are we even going to get a sequel to this Flash movie? Andy Muschietti made a comment, the director of Flash, last week, I think, saying that, you know what, only Ezra Miller can play Flash, and if I do a sequel to Flash, I'm not recasting Ezra Miller. Yeah, which is, hey, that's great. To which I said, okay, that's great that you're saying that, but I think Andy Muschietti said that. I have no proof of this. This is just me speculating. Okay, just speculation. But I believe that was a standard page out of the Warner Brothers PR playbook. Mm-hmm. Keep pretending like everything this way it is. It's exactly what they did when Ben Affleck was no longer going to be Batman, but they kept on the charade that he was going to still be Batman to promote the upcoming DC movie that they had where he was still playing Batman. You know, Ben Affleck, they had him get on stage at Comic-Con famously and say, I'm still Batman. I will crawl on all fours for Matt Reeves to still be Batman, when in actuality, he was already gone. They just pretended like he was still there. I think Andy Muschietti is pulling a page out of that playbook and saying, oh yeah, Ezra Miller's my Flash, when he probably knows that there's not going to be a sequel, or probably knows that they're already going to be replaced, or whatever. I just don't buy. Again, I cannot say that definitively. That is just me as a regular movie fan speculating, okay? But there is that. Chris, listen, you haven't seen Flash yet, but you got a play-by-play of the whole movie.
Yes. A one-man show.
And that your husband Logan put on very well, by the way.
He's so committed.
Great performance.
Call him WB. Come on.
Almost method, I would say.
You know?
He almost went method on it. But given all the other circumstances, take in the fact that there is a script, which, 99 out of every 100 scripts never get made into anything. You think there's a chance there's actually going to be a Flash sequel with everything that we know at this
It's
point?
my favorite topic in the world. Yeah, I was going to say, Flash movies that don't exist. Let's go. This is the Chris Cark topic. It took 10 years to get the last one made. Are we going to see this movie in 2033?
Yeah.
I don't believe this at all. I don't believe this for a second. No. WB, you lie. You lie like a rug. You lie like a dog. There is no Flash 2. I don't believe it at all.
I do believe a script exists.
I'm sure a script exists. And maybe they'll do some kind of Elseworlds thing and this will happen. But this iteration of Flash, I say this as somebody who has not seen the movie, aside from my husband pantomiming everything out for me. I do not think they're going to make a sequel of this movie. The DCU is moving in a totally different direction. Maybe they'll keep some of the bones and infrastructure from the script if they like it for an Elseworlds, or use it to implement Flash into whatever they're doing. I don't think it's going to happen.
Now, I can already hear people saying, but John, why would they have a script written if they were in our plans? I think it's important to point out that this script would have been developed and written prior to James Gunn and Peter Safran being commissioned to change directions for DC. So, again, listen, anything is possible. Yeah. Anything is possible.
I think everyone who's going to see The Flash is going to go see it, right? Everyone who's decided they're not.
That's very insightful.
No. I'm just saying.
Everyone is going to go see The Flash is going to see it.
Warner Brothers, they're not going to win anybody over from what they say. Everyone who's hell-bent on seeing it, they're already going. So whatever they say, it's not going to change the minds of the people who are just going to deny this film for whatever reason. Yeah.
It feels a little like, to your point, right, of, hey, let's show that cameo of Wonder Woman in Shazam. Maybe that'll change your mind about seeing this movie. Maybe if we keep telling you that all these other celebrities like it, maybe if we keep telling you we already have a sequel in store, if all these people are so in love with this movie, maybe you'll go see it.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what.
It feels a little desperate.
They're projecting a $75 million opening for this, which if you had asked me 4 months ago, I would have doubted it could get 75. Yeah. I would have doubted it.
And if it does, congratulations to the filmmakers, honestly.
Like, I think these things that you call desperate, which I don't disagree with you, by the way, but these things that we are labeling as desperate may be desperate. But I think they're also moving the needle a little bit.
Sure.
I think we're going to see a bigger opening weekend on this thing than maybe it could have a few months ago.
What is marketing, if not desperation, persevering?
Yeah. It's true. All right.
Our destiny.
All right, guys. With that down, we're going to move on. We still got to talk about Fast X's box office projections right now, the Directors Guild deal. Hopefully we'll get around to Disney talk, firing the Lightyear director. But before we get on with those topics, we're going to take just a second here and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Manscaped. Father's Day is right around the corner and you haven't gotten your dad anything yet? Don't worry. That's where our sponsors, Manscaped, come in. You and I both know he needs some serious grooming in his life, so grab your dad the Performance Package 4.0 and he'll thank you for helping him tame that beastly hair. Go to manscaped.com and use code CAMPEA for 20% off plus free shipping. Guys, I don't know if your dad's anything like mine, but where my dad lacks some hair on top of his head, believe me, he makes up for it everywhere else on his body, and Manscaped is perfect for him. Manscaped is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and perfected their game with the Lawnmower 4.0. This is the perfect gift, presenting a sleek, well-designed, and optimized grooming kit that says your balls will thank you right on the box. Their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. This upgraded trimmer includes a multifunction on-off switch that can engage a travel lock. This is great for any guy who does a lot of traveling. It also gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Haven't you always wanted to be able to shave your balls in the dark? And come on, guys, almost all of our dads have that nose bush sticking out of their nose, right? Well, the Weed Whacker 2.0, the nose and ear hair trimmer, is the best nose trimmer on the market and the perfect gift for your dad. Guys, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code Campea. Don't forget, you came from your dad's balls, so this year, show your original home some love with Manscaped. And thank you to our friends at Manscaped for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, that down. Let's move on to this, shall we? You know, Fast X, we talked a little bit earlier about the biggest opening weekends of the year, and Fast X, listen, I admit, at the beginning of the year, I would have projected that Fast X would be one of the biggest opening weekends of the year. Here we are only about halfway through the year, and as of right now, if I look at this, Fast is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th biggest opening of the year. So it'll probably not end up in the top 10. Opened to $67 million. Now, it did well overseas and internationally. So worldwide, it made about 400 and something million on its opening weekend. Again, but it had an advantage over a number of other films that it opened in more markets than most films do on the same day that it opened in North America. Still, it looked like it could still be rolling, even though it was struggling a bit domestically. Well, as of right now, Fast X has only pulled in a little over $600 million, I want to say, at this point. I'll see if I can pull up the full number. Yeah, the full worldwide number as of right now for Fast X is $603 million, which is only about 70 million more than after last week's weekend. Now, we kind of broke down the numbers before with the movie costing $340 million. This is one of the most expensive films ever made in the history of cinema. And around about $150 million marketing budget. We said, bare minimum, this movie needs to make $750 million just to break even, bare minimum. Some outlets are claiming that the film actually has to make closer to $800 million or $820 million to break even. Still, let's go with the lowest number, the 750. At this point and at this rate, it's not going to get to 100. It's not going to get to 750. And its box office growth rate is just going to continue to decline at a fast rate. It dropped another 60% this weekend over the previous one. Now, look, again, to be fair and to keep it in proper objective context, this movie has made over $600 million, and 99% of directors in the world would kill to make a movie that makes $600 million.
Yeah.
Of
There's
course
a problem
they would.
when that doesn't make break even.
Exactly.
Yes, there's a big problem when it doesn't even break even. And it's going to be hard. And what's going to make it even harder to do so is there's a report coming out right now that Microsoft is advertising that you can now pre-order Fast X in SD, HD, and UHD for $25, and that it'll be released on June 9th.
Whoa.
June 9th. Now, Universal is not...
21 days after it was released in theaters.
Yeah, now it needs to be pointed out that Universal has not confirmed this, and maybe it's an error on Microsoft's part, but that's just going to kill any box office it's getting, and I don't know how many people are going to order it for $25. So it's a struggle. Now, look, to me, the question is, this is where it's interesting, because this is not let's gang up on Fast X. Oh, look, Fast X didn't make money. Not at all. There are many movies we talked earlier in the stream, in the show, that there are many oftentimes great movies that fail to make money.
Yep.
But we have another one coming out. And where this gets interesting for me is this. Universal, for some reason, greenlit a $340 million budget for Fast X. And it's going to lose money. Certainly at the box office. Meanwhile, they're getting the tires rolling now on getting Fast X Part 2 or Fast 11, whatever they're going to call it. And I have to believe that as we are recording this, there are high-level meetings being held at the Castle Universal, where probably Vin Diesel's been summoned. Because I can only assume the budget on the new film was probably equal to or more than Fast X. And while I have seen no official reports about this, I've got to believe there are meetings going on right now where Universal reps are sitting down with Vin Diesel and saying, look, we know we told you could make this next one for 350 or whatever, but
We lied.
I am altering the deal. Pray I do not alter it further. You've got a $200 million budget, which would still be one of the most expensive films out there. I mean, that's high-level blockbuster filmmaking, but almost represents like a 40% cut from what they made Fast X for. I just don't believe for a second. First of all, I still believe they're going to make Fast 11.
Yeah.
I think that Fast 12 movie that Vin Diesel was teasing, I think that's off the board. I don't think there's any way. I think Universal is also sitting down with Vin Diesel now saying, yeah, we know we were kind of hey, Vin, we were all flirting with the idea of doing Fast X as a trilogy and maybe having a 12th film, but let's just be real, that's not in the cards. So I think the two repercussions of this are, number one, we're going to see Fast 11, but it's going to be at a probably much reduced budget than what they were originally aiming for. And that number two, I think Fast 12 is right off the table. Again, it may happen. I don't have any, Vin Diesel didn't call me to tell me that. I'm speculating just from looking at the information. But again, two things. Fast 11 will have a reduced budget, significantly probably, and there is not going to be a Fast 12. Chris, you see these numbers happening. What's your takeaway from it? What do you see happening here?
Well, first of all, I believe that early pull moving it to streaming. I think that's definitely going to happen. I don't think that's just like misinformation out there. I think Universal's going to say, yep, coming June 9th, we're going to see it. Because this has been something Universal's been doing as of late, too. Violent Night, Knock on the Cabin Door. What other film just came out recently? Cocaine Bear. Those all went to streaming within about like 15 to 20 days, which those also had significantly smaller budgets. So it is odd to see something that is one of your tent poles go to streaming so quickly in under 30 days. That's wild. Universal has not been having the best luck with a lot of their properties lately. So, I mean, aside from Mario is still under Universal.
Which is a huge, obvious
that one did well.
Yeah.
But other original content too. Renfield didn't do as well as they did. That went straight to streaming after, a 58-day window. So a lot of these things aren't living in theaters for much longer, and it feels like a very
Or was
big.
it a 38-day window?
Oh, I think you're correct.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
anyway.
So a lot of these films, though, are just moving to streaming earlier than I think they anticipated. And when it comes to Fast, this is supposed to be a big, big movie for them. This is supposed to be something that they can do so much with. There's a whole section of the Universal Tour dedicated to this freaking franchise. So to see these numbers and to see it perform not well, given that inflated budget, obviously the next film is going to take big old cuts. We talked last week about the Dwayne Johnson kind of interim movie as well.
Hobbs spinoff.
It feels like we're doing a lot of Hail Marys right now, because right now that $25 on streaming thing seems like they're just trying to grab what cash they can to try and make up for all this loss.
Especially this early.
Yeah. Ooh.
I'm interested in how it affects this Hobbs spinoff. Mm-hmm. Budgetarily, but also then, okay, if Hobbs doesn't it underperforms, where are we at with this? And if Hobbs overperforms, where are we at with this? Do they bring over the writer for Fast 11 then from the Hobbs,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Chris Morgan, because again, here's the thing. The Hobbs movie that they've announced, for those of you who missed it, they announced last week that Dwayne Johnson is going to be doing a bridge movie, they're calling it. A movie that bridges the events of Fast X and Fast 11. It's not going to have Vin Diesel or anything, and I don't think Dwayne Johnson is going to be in Fast 12, from what I understand. It might happen, but from what I understand, that's not on the table right now. And Chris Morgan, who has written the best Fast and the Furious scripts and did Hobbs and Shaw, which, by the way, made more money than Fast 9 did as a spin-off movie, made $760 million at the box office. So I think, if anything, this lackluster performance of Fast X probably just doubles their conviction that they need to make this bridge movie. And I'm going to guess it will do okay. And I think you're right, Jonathan. I think this might be something that sparks them going, look, we just got to get Morgan to write Fast 11 because something's not working here. And again, I think this is all living consequences of how bad Fast 9 was. Fast 9 was a franchise killer. It was that bad. And I think the reason we're seeing that this film is not being a $1 billion film is because people saw Fast 9 and said, I'm out. It's just that bad.
I have a question. When did, I know they went to space in Fast 9, but when did they fully jump the shark of making all of these characters superheroes all of a sudden? When did Vin Diesel get powers?
You're probably going to go back a little bit earlier. Because,
Okay.
I mean, again, I remember joking, I think after Fast 6 or Fast 7, that I remember with the joke started, and I said one myself. I said, look, it's pretty clear now that despite the fact that he's a mechanic, that they literally could bring the 4th Armored Russian Tank Division to fight Dominic Toretto. And as long as Dominic Toretto just has a big wrench, Dominic Toretto will win. Because it would just becoming clear. I mean, where it really, really crossed the line for me, like this is just now into beyond stretching our limits of believability into pure fiction. Well, some people will say it jumped the shark in 8 with the submarine. I get that.
There's a submarine.
There's a submarine.
But in 9, not only did they go to space, before they got to space, I checked out mentally because they literally had Dom surrounded by 50 Black Ops guys
Of course.
that are getting ready to take him down. And they're in this underground thing with this huge concrete and stone thing. And there's 2 big chains. And Dominic grabs the chains and literally pulls the roof down by the mighty power of his arms.
And family.
And family, the power of family.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact that physics, that doesn't actually work, because let's even say theoretically Dominic Toretto had the strength to pull down the ceiling. By pulling down on the chains, unless he weighs 3,000 pounds, pulling the chains just would have lifted his feet off the ground. But let's never mind that. But I think that was the point for some people.
That would have been so cute if they were like, he's like, ugh, and he just lifts.
And he's just,
Oh,
he
man.
just basically did a glorified chin up. Oh, look at that. I don't know. It's just pretty rough. Anyway, we should probably move on from that. Let's move on to this, shall we? This one's actually more interesting, but we did a video about this one earlier on the channel too, the YouTube channel, that in the midst of the writer's strike, which many of us believe, despite the fact that there was some optimistic signs out there that the DGA and the producers and studios may make a deal, a lot of us, including me, admittedly, thought that we were heading towards a trifecta apocalypse, that we were going to have the WGA, the Directors Guild, the DGA, and the Actors Guild, the SAG union, all going on strike, which would have just shut the damn business down, right, until it would get resolved. Unsurprising to some, but admittedly surprising to me, it was announced the other day that the DGA has struck a deal with the studios and producers, and they have avoided the strike. They got a deal done. And while this does not hurt the WGA's position, who are on strike, it certainly doesn't help. Because had all 3 unions gone on strike, it would have strengthened the leverage of all the unions. But the Directors Guild, their number one responsibility, I said this earlier, their number one responsibility is not to the WGA. Their number one responsibility is not to SAG. Their number one responsibility is not to my mom. Their number one responsibility is to the members of the DGA. And their leadership committee's responsibilities, if they came with a deal that was beneficial for the DGA, they needed to accept it, and they did. And now it's going to go to the membership to ratify the deal, which I expect they will ratify it. A couple of members of the WGA, though, have come out and said, hey, that's cute, but time out. A number of these things you gave the DGA, things such as increased pay and benefits, increased royalties for streaming shows, and comprehensive deals and safety measures for the use and limitations of the use of AI. All things the WGA has been asking for and brought to the table. They gave to the Directors Guild while they shut down talks with the WGA and are not even coming to the table to negotiate. And a deal getting done is not going to expedite that process with the DGA. So, Chris, again, we're very, very lucky. Well, first of all, we are always lucky that Chris Carr is here. But especially on days that we are talking about union issues, because you are the only one in this room who is a member of one of the 3 big issues. You are a member of, and you've even been on committee with the Screen Actors Guild. What's the impact of this for the industry as a whole, for the Writers Guild, whatnot? with the DGA now reaching this deal seemingly rather easily. What do you think?
Well, first of all, too, in their almost 90-year history, the DGA has only gone on strike once in 1987, and it was for mere minutes. So
Yeah, I read like a maximum of 12.
Yeah.
but might be less.
they have never fully
We
gone on
think you're
strike.
bluffing. We're on strike. Never mind. What do you want?
Oh, I just kicked the heck out of the table.
Oh, I heard the bang.
My knee.
too.
Okay, I'm just so fired up about it. So first of all, they're not really the striking kind, even though some of the language has suggested that they were willing to. And that is the whole thing about negotiations, right? We're willing to strike. Doesn't mean everyone will, but it is interesting that they were able to get all of these needs met. Both the WGA and SAG-AFTRA have not made a proper comment on what those terms are because none of us know the terms. We know the DGA released a statement saying they got about a 76% increase in foreign residuals and all these kinds of things, better health benefits, that sort of thing as well. However, we don't know all of the actual intricacies of this deal. That being said, SAG-AFTRA, Duncan Crabtree Ireland, who's our chief negotiator, he has stated that whatever deal the DGA came up with, that does not affect us. We have to have our own deal. We have to have our own thing. The WGA has had the same thing. We have asked for similar things, it seems like. And it's very interesting that they went ahead and gave the DGA all of those things. Our demands remain the same as they were on May 1st when we went on strike. So it's led to a lot of divisiveness, it seems, between those writers who are also members of the DGA. A lot of writers believing that the DGA did what was ultimately in their best interest, which is what a union does. But since there is such an overlap between those two guilds in particular, I did personally hope they would hold out and try to negotiate a bit more, maybe do some other things that benefit the WGA. Again, I don't know all of the intricacies, though, so it's hard to make a definitive statement. I know a lot of people online were talking about how this is all due to the WGA. They're getting, the backdraft of that strike, and they're being able to negotiate with a bit more ferocity because, the AMPTP knows that they need to start making deals with folks and everything.
Well, some people are saying that the WGA strike, to your point, actually strengthened the DGA's position.
For sure.
Because the producers are like, we can't also have the directors go on strike. Give them what they want. So that may have helped their position out a bit.
Absolutely. I think it did. And a lot of people have been saying that this seems to be the AMPTP's playbook. Divide the unions, conquer, make them all go in for themselves and not think about the other guilds. And to an extent, that is what we're all going to do. At the end of the day, it is going to be, sure, we'll stand in solidarity with you and your demands. But if our demands are met, things are going to go differently. But the demands of writers and actors are so intrinsically tied this time around. We are asking for so much of the same thing when it comes to our own residuals and the way that works for us. And we're two guilds where working class lives are much more feasible and used to be the norm. If you were a writer, a regular writer on a staffed show, you were a middle-class person in Los Angeles. If you were a journeyman actor in Los Angeles or in New York or something like that, you could have a decent lifestyle as if, you were middle management for somebody. That no longer exists. The residuals game has dried up. So many streaming shows do not even pay us residuals. Or if they are, we are getting cents on the dollar. So that used to be how we made our living. This is a blue-collar job with a white-collar attitude. These are jobs that have a lot of training behind them, but at the end of the day, it's a blue-collar job. And it's one that has a lot of, skill and everything behind it. But it is labor, and it needs to be compensated.
Let me ask you this. And I am not asking you this to rep the Screen Actors Guild. I'm only asking for your individual personal feelings. Let's say now the AMPTP turns their attention to the SAG, to the Screen Actors Guild, and says, okay, yeah, we will we'll capitulate to 75% of what you're asking for, which I think is, in any negotiations, that's pretty great. And say most of the key things that SAG is asking for. Will your feeling be that the Screen Actors Guild will say to themselves and amongst themselves, you know what, we got to stay in solidarity with the WGA, we're not going to accept the deal? Or do they go more the DGA route and say, hey, they're actually presenting us a deal that is good for our membership and accept the deal regardless of the fact that the WGA is still on strike? What's your feeling that your union will do if such an offer is brought to them?
Our president, Fran Drescher, was on the picket line and got interviewed and said some things that made many union members very angry of, well, it's a very complicated issue and who knows if we'll strike and da-da-da-da-da. And a whole bunch of union members went, are you freaking kidding me, Nanny? Are you kidding me?
Nanny.
And I think since then, since there has been such a loud response from members who have united behind, no, we have been getting bum deals and we do not like this and you have to negotiate for us and you need to get us better contracts. I think that we're probably going to lean towards that WGA kind of mentality and get what we need. Because there's a lot of infighting right now. I said this earlier within my union about other demands that they want met. There is a kind of petition to get paid for auditions because of the work that goes into those. There are other people who are saying, we are not focusing on that at all right now. Please don't bring that up. We're trying to just get what we have booked, negotiated, and paid for. Let's focus on that and do other things. So I think right now, the majority of my union is very, very focused on working through this residual and AI situation of making sure that the work we have actually done and not to say that auditions aren't work, but being on set, filming something, having something that networks are profiting off of gets properly compensated. So I think we'll side with the WGA.
All right, guys. Well, it's an ever evolving situation, and we, like all film fans, are going to keep our eyes on it. All right. With that down, let's get into our final topic here today. Very splashy headline started going around the other day. And it's a sexy headline. And it's a headline we've used. Disney has fired the director, Pixar has fired the director of Lightyear. Now, that headline is true, and we'll go into the details here in a second. It is true. However, if you just read the headline and don't actually read the details of the story, you might think that, Pixar was frustrated at the box office failure of Lightyear and therefore fired them. Well, that's not really the case here. Many of you guys will remember that Disney announced a while ago that they were going to be laying off a certain percentage of their employees. Those layoffs have begun. They're not finished yet. But this was a round of Pixar getting their hit. And Pixar lost 75 positions, one of which was the director of Lightyear. This comes to us from Screen Rant. They wrote the following. Nearly a year after it first hit theaters, Reuters has brought word that Disney has fired Lightyear director Agnes McLean, along with Pixar's vice president of worldwide publicity, Michael Agulink. I hope I'm saying that right. The House of Mouse has also fired producer Galen Sussman. Now, this is interesting. If that name sounds familiar, it's because of this. Galen Sussman, who famously saved Toy Story 2 from destruction when the entire film was mistakenly deleted. As the story goes, due to a really unfortunate set of mistakes, Pixar lost all their hard drives, all the information. Toy Story 2 was gone. And I believe it was Galen Sussman who realized they had a backup copy at home and actually saved one of the highest critically rated films in the history of cinema, Toy Story 2. That person, now gone.
Fired.
Now fired.
No good deed goes unpunished.
No good deed goes unpunished, along with a reported 70 plus other executives. McLean is the most shocking firing, as the director has enjoyed a 26-year tenure at Pixar and worked his way from animator to blockbuster director. Now, it needs to be pointed out here that Pixar works differently than most other studios, right? Like, Christopher Nolan did not work for Warner Brothers. Christopher Nolan didn't come in 9 to 5, punch a clock, and worked at Warner Brothers. And no. Like most places, a director is a gig by gig thing. You do a movie for Warner Brothers, you can go do a movie for Pixar, go do a movie for Paramount, go do a movie for Universal, whatever. But Pixar is more of an in-house thing. They literally have creative people who work on staff. They work there, period. And then, Andrew Stanton is going to direct this one. And, somebody's going to direct this one, right? So he wasn't just the director of Lightyear. He was a 26-year employee of Pixar. So I don't know that this really had anything to do with the failure of Lightyear. I tend to don't believe that it did. I think this just had more to do with the fact that Disney announced that they have sweeping layoffs coming and sweeping job cuts. And it's just now Pixar's turn. And even somebody like Galen, who saved Toy Story 2, and I'm sure that got Galen a lot of, acorns in their pocket for the last 25 years. even that person's got to go and gone. So again, I don't know that this had anything to do with Lightyear. I think it probably just more had to do with the overall cuts. But again, 26 years as starting off as an animator, working all the way up to becoming a big director and a big creative force there at the company. Anyway, Chris, we shouldn't be surprised that under the Disney umbrella, with all the layoffs happening, that it ultimately hit Pixar as well. But do any of these specific ones surprise you?
I mean, that 26 years is such a bummer. And this is really a story about numbers and how business numbers and then those personal numbers don't always have congruency and they don't feel cohesive, right? Because it's 3% of the company that's being laid off, essentially. 3%. 7,000 jobs. Because Disney has, I believe, 220,000, 166,000 are here in the States. They're laying off 7,000 different people by the end of the summer is the supposed goal. And that's based on a letter that CNN got their hands on of Iger talking about all their layoffs and everything. We reported on this several weeks ago.
Yeah.
So there's this number of 3% that just seems like a little dip in the pool. But then when you think about the people who've been at this company for so long and the blood, sweat, and tears they've put in, especially people who have made the climb from animator to director, because being an animator is such a thankless job. Those folks were working through the pandemic from home as well, too. Animators work thousands upon thousands of hours. It's a tough gig.
Yeah.
And to stay in the industry for that long and not suffer burnout and just continue to climb is really, really commendable.
Specifically at Disney, they're notorious for it's a grindhouse. So.
Exactly. Anyone who lives in that kind of post-production world too, who does editing or anything like that, you know how difficult it can be to work in that. So that's the first thing that jumps out is I understand it's a business move, but man, the people that you're going to lose along the way, it's rough because Disney's not in a really great financial spot when you look at it at the end of the day. I know we always think about how Disney's this powerhouse, but Disney Plus has not been the financial boom they thought it would be.
Yeah, none of the streamers
have been.
Yeah.
But, Lucasfilm, Marvel, and Pixar, they've all been pressured to push content onto this platform. Pixar in particular has had several years, thanks to Chapek, of animation being released on the streamer as opposed to having box offices. So, or going out for theatrical release is what I mean by that. So you have movies too, then like a Lightyear that, at the end of the day, did make a profit. But it's still considered a flop because it didn't make enough of a profit.
Did Lightyear make a profit?
I believe it made $25 million over what its actual budget was.
I don't know that I think those numbers line up. I think when you take marketing and theatrical share, I think, let me look up some numbers.
Okay.
But please
I think it was
continue your thought.
$200 million versus $225 million. Could be incorrect, especially if you factor marketing into it. But Pixar hasn't had the ability to showcase what they've been doing.
Sorry, just a heads up. Yeah, so Variety claimed that Lightyear lost an estimated $106 million.
That makes sense because the budget was 200,
Mm-hmm.
and then marketing. So let's say it's 300, and then a third goes to theaters.
So it needed 450 to break
true.
even. It made around 230.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, Lightyear, come on. But still, if Fast and Furious has 10 movies, Lord, 12 soon.
And then you add on top of that Strange World, which also flopped.
Flopped.
Yeah, they've been struggling.
Raya went straight to streaming. Obviously, that was a pandemic film. Onward went to streaming because that was a pandemic film.
No, it did.
It had a
Onward
little
got a
bit,
theatrical release
that was
before going
right
streaming. But
when
then
we all decided to go in our houses so we didn't die.
Right, so then
so
you
it
had
didn't really have a
Soul.
chance. We had Soul.
You
we
had Luca.
We had Raya.
Turning Red.
Turning Red, which should have had a theatrical release.
Yes, it should have.
So I think Pixar also doesn't have the same kind of household buzz that it once did, especially if you are looking at Pixar films a lot of times, even though it's beautiful storytelling, incredible writing, heartbreaking moments, they are films that we still view as viewed to a younger audience, right? And if you're a new parent with young kids, your kids might not be buzzing about Pixar movies. They might not be super excited about them.
Which is really too bad because a lot of those films that went straight to streaming, Soul, Luca, and Turning Red, were really good films.
They were great.
They were all really
I watch Luca
good.
once a month.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right, guys. With that all down, we are now going to move over and start taking questions that our YouTube channel members have fired in. Now, before we get to those, though, we want to take a moment and thank a couple more sponsors of today's show, our friends at Honey and my mobile service provider, Mint Mobile. Today's episode of the John Campea Show is brought to you by Honey, the easy way to save when shopping on your iPhone or computer. Guys, more and more we enjoy shopping online, whether it's on our phones or our computers. And how many times have you gotten to the checkout and seen that promo code box and thought, man, if I only had a promo code, I could save some money? Well, thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is a thing of the past. Honey is the free shopping tool that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. So here's the situation. You're shopping online on one of your favorite sites, and when you go to checkout, the Honey button appears, and all you have to do is click Apply Coupons. Then just wait a few seconds as Honey works its magic and searches for coupons it can find for that site that you're on. And if Honey finds working coupon, just watch the price drop. Recently, Ann and I were hanging out at home one evening and we decided to order in, and the Honey button appeared. I was able to apply a coupon and I actually saved like $6 or $7. It was that easy to use. And Honey doesn't just work on your desktop computer, it also works on your iPhone. Just activate it on Safari on your phone and save on the go. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this show. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/Campea. That's joinhoney.com/Campea. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. From the gas pump to the grocery store, your utility bills and favorite streaming services, inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, there's one company out there that's giving you a much needed break. It's Mint Mobile. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know that ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've been saving almost 70% a month over my old phone plan. For people looking for extra savings this year, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Honey and Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Remember, guys, when you go and check out our sponsors and support them, you're actually supporting us. So if you look down into the description, you'll find links and promo codes to today's sponsors. And thank you again to Honey and Mint Mobile. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over to the questions that our beloved YouTube channel members have sent in. Chris, what do we have?
From CJ Rebirth. Just wanted to say that this week marks 25 years since Disney's Mulan starring Ming-Na Wen and Eddie Murphy came out. Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow. One of my favorite scenes from that movie is the score done by Jerry Goldsmith that plays when Mulan decides to take her dad's armor.
It's a wonder, it's one of their animated ones that I think is really actually kind of tragically overlooked and overrated. As a matter of fact, I did it myself the other day. We were talking about that era of Disney films, and we talk about, rightfully so, Aladdin. We talk about Lion King. What was one of the other big ones out there? Aladdin, Lion King.
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast, all that kind of stuff. But we don't bring up Mulan. And by the way, I didn't think the live action version of Mulan was a train wreck. I mean, I was underwhelmed by it. I was, but I didn't think it was a total train wreck. But yeah, I think that animated film is really overlooked.
It's beautiful. It's my dad's favorite animated film of all time.
Oh.
Really? Mm-hmm. It's a funny film, too.
He loves it. He watches it, and he's like, "You would never do that for me." You're right. You're right.
All right, what's next?
From Norrell. Hey, John and crew. I absolutely love the score in Across the Spider-Verse, especially during that final scene. What did you guys think of the music and score in the film?
Somebody asked a similar question on the open spoiler discussion. I said this. There are two different tracks of music in a movie, right? You have soundtrack, which is songs, and then you have score, right? Which is the orchestral, background of the movie. I actually think the score of Across the Spider-Verse is better than the one in Into the Spider-Verse. But I still think the soundtrack is better in the first one.
Yep.
Because you look at that first one, What's Up Danger, Sunflower. I mean, there's just a bunch. I mean, what's the anime Spider-Man called again? What's her name? Penny?
Penny.
Penny Parker? Yeah. Her song, Oh God, I love her song. I mean, the second one has great soundtrack as well, just not quite as good. So I say score better for the second one, soundtrack better for the first one. All right, what's next?
From Red One Real Talk, between Spider-Verse and the Ted Lasso finale, my heart is full beyond belief. I can be disappointed by all else this summer and know I'll be just fine hanging my hat on these two. Side note, I need to see more of Haley Steinfeld on the big screen, Hollywood.
Yeah, I really do. By the way, she has a show, a TV show. It's finished now, but I think it's on either Hulu or Apple TV Plus.
Dickinson?
What's that?
Dickinson?
Mm-hmm. I can't remember if it's on Apple TV Plus or Hulu. It's on Apple. Anne loves that show, like completely loves it. And I saw a couple of episodes. She's great in it. Like she's great in everything. By the way, she made Bumblebee. She brought the real heartbeat. I'll tell you what, she brought the humanity to Transformers better than Shia LaBeouf did in his Transformers movies. And by the way, I say that as somebody who really likes Shia LaBeouf's performances in the Transformers movies.
You don't think it was Megan Fox?
What's that?
You don't think it was Megan Fox?
The gold standard?
She brought something.
She brought.
Listen.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to lean over the hood of this car in tight
Poor
denim
Megan
jeans. It's not going to do it. These denim jeans ain't going to lean over the car themselves.
Oh, man.
All right, what's next?
Jennifer's Body is a highly underrated film.
That's actually
Love
not
that
a bad
one.
old film.
She's wonderful in that.
No, by the way, she did a stint in the final 1 or 2 seasons of New Girl.
New Girl.
Where she was Reagan.
She was very good in that. She fit right in with that crew, and she was actually very, very good in that.
From Alan S. Hi, Campea crew. I hope you all had a great weekend. I don't think this is a spoiler, but did you know Paul Walker's daughter made a quick cameo in Fast X? It's so good to see how close she is with the Fast family.
You know what? I totally forgot that. I remember because I saw a picture of it before I ever saw the movie. She's grown up. I still can't believe, like I saw it, and I'm like, that's not Paul Walker's. Oh my God, it is. It just reminds you about how long it's been since Paul Walker passed away. I mean, I've told the story before, but I still remember exactly where it was. I was in Las Vegas. I was at the Planet Hollywood Hotel. I was sitting at a poker table, and I checked my phone, and that's when it started blowing, because my phone was blowing up. I checked my phone, that news, Paul Walker. I thought it was a joke because it said Paul Walker dies in a car crash in a sports car. I'm like, okay, well, that's a bad joke. It's a bad joke. Oh, it's real. And and then you look at his kids, and they're grown up. Walker's kids are grown. I think it's really nice that the family has stayed involved. All right, what's next?
From Cody Hunt, no spoilers, Gwen is the protagonist of Across the Spider-Verse. It begins and ends with her. That's why it's a complete film.
I disagree that she's the protagonist. I think you're absolutely right. The film starts with her. It technically ends with her. But she's not the protagonist. As soon as Miles enters the scene, it becomes clear Miles is the driving engine of the movie. The story is told around Miles's perspective and what's going on with Miles. It is definitively Miles's movie. But Gwen definitely plays a much bigger role in this one than she did even in the first one. But I would say that he's still the main character, the antagonist, if you will, or the protagonist. I mean. All right, what's next?
From Lucas Slater, hey, John and crew, love the show.
Thank you.
This is my first time writing in. Is there any sense in which the DGA coming to terms without striking is letting the WGA down at all? Will this lead to animosity towards the DGA, or are they separate enough in their negotiations that it's a non-issue?
At the end of the day, like unless the 3 guilds had met privately and said, we all agree that unless this, and this happens, we all strike, right? Which technically would be breaking the law. That's called collusion. But
I learned that from the league.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so many life lessons to be learned in the league.
Love that show.
The reality is and we mentioned this earlier, the leadership of each guild, their number one responsibility, both morally and legally, and priority, is the benefit of their individual members. The leadership of the DGA, nowhere on their priority list is what's good for the WGA. Nowhere on their priority list is what's good for SAG. And conversely, the leadership of the WGA, nowhere on their priority list is what's best for the DGA. It is the responsibility of each guild to act in the best interests of their own membership. Now, if standing in solidarity with the other unions is ultimately what is best for your own leadership or for your own membership, then yes, you pursue that. But if they brought certain things to the table and said, we want this, this, and this, and the studios and producers said, sure, to a significant chunk of it, then it is the responsibility of the leadership to take it back to their membership and recommend accepting it. It is what it is. So it's, Ray, what did you say earlier again? It's not show friends, it's show business. So, yeah. All right, what's next?
From Tyler. Nice Manscaped ad, John. Your original home.
I make no comment.
I still haven't heard it. I have to hear it after.
Although I got to tell you, man, I tell you all the time, like, Mint Mobile is my favorite mobile provider I've ever had. I use all the Manscaped. Well, I'm sorry, that's an exaggeration. I don't use every single product Manscaped has, but I still use Manscaped products every day. As a matter of fact, just this morning,
Please say it was just the nose trimmer.
Climbed into my shower. No, Ray still has my nose trimmer. Climbed into my shower. He does.
Worse.
And I pulled out my Manscaped body wash, my favorite body wash I've ever had. I love Manscaped. I'm so thrilled that they're one of our sponsors. All right, what's next?
Got really concerned about what was about to happen. It's like, oh, okay. From Cinema, under 10%, we see a Venom variant in Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Well, 10% is such a low number. You could almost propose anything and I'll say over. But yeah, listen, by the way, there's a particular cameo in this movie. Jonathan hasn't seen the film, but there's a particular cameo in this movie that I absolutely love that really makes me say over 10%. So I'll go over on that. All right, what's next?
From Mista47, when a movie gets the rights to use a certain song, is that same song less likely to be used again in the future, or more likely? Take On Me and I Need a Hero are just a couple songs that have been done to death already.
The answer is neither. A movie or a TV show may think, hey, this song will be perfect for us here. And it really won't matter if it's been used before or whatever. Now, if a song becomes synonymous with another movie, I would say Top Gun's You've Lost That Lovin' Feeling. It would be very difficult today for another film to use that because it's just, and I'm sure others have, but I'm just saying it's running a higher risk now because that wasn't just a really good song to use in that one moment. That song became synonymous with that movie, right? Like absolutely synonymous with it. Bryan Adams, Good Canadian Kid, his great song, Everything I Do It For You. That song is synonymous with Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I couldn't see that song being done anywhere else. Well, actually, that's a bad example because I think that song was written for the movie. So I withdraw that one. But still. But other than that, it really doesn't have any impact. Like to your point, I Need a Hero has been used 40 or 50 times. And if it fits, guess what? If I'm making a movie and that song is the perfect song to put in a certain spot, I'm going to use it. All right, what's next?
From Ulatan, how much does the writer's strike affect the release of Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse? Do you know if the movie has already been written? Yes, because it comes out in 2024.
It comes out in 9 months.
Yeah.
So not only is it written, it's been written a long time ago, and they're already well into production on the film. So it should not have any impact on Beyond the Spider-Verse whatsoever, theoretically. All right, what's next?
From Adam Sandoval, what is SAG looking to get in their negotiations with the movie studios? Thank you for asking, Adam. We are asking to get residuals on streamers, basically. So everyone has different negotiations and contracts with these various streamers and different platforms. So contracts with NBC on the actual cable distribution side of things is very different than what you have on Peacock. When things are on streaming, we get paid very, very poorly. All right.
May I throw in an example here? Mm-hmm. I just did an editorial video that you helped write.
Yeah.
On what the WG writers can and cannot do, why they're striking. In that editorial video, we gave this great example. There's a writer, I'm forgetting her name, but she did an episode of the, I believe, ABC show Queens. Mm. And for one episode, she got so ABC is a traditional broadcast television network. She got a $4,000 residual check. She did an episode of a much more popular Hulu series that is streaming, and she got a $4 residual check. And that was with a more popular show, but it was on streaming. Meanwhile, she got a $4,000. That's the difference between there, just to give that illustration.
Exactly. So we get really, really screwed over because how do you all watch TV now? You watch it on a streamer. Most people don't have cable anymore. Most people aren't watching things on network television. You're watching it through Hulu. You're watching these other things. So it's really, really important that we get that compensation. And one of the issues right now is that folks at these different streamers and folks at the AMPTP are saying, well, who's to say how many people are even watching something on a streamer? You are to say.
Yeah, because the streamers will not release their actual viewership
there's so
data.
many ways. If we all know exactly how many people tune in to listen to us on Spotify or watch the shorts on YouTube, I think these companies can figure it out. So that's part of it. And then also AI use is another thing. Particularly for us voice actors, it's a very scary thing. So we're going into contract negotiations about duplicating people's voices, how we have to give our consent to that, and the types of negotiations that can go forward with that.
All right. What's next?
From Augustin, if Indiana Jones movies are from Paramount Pictures, why are they on Disney Plus?
I think well, first of all, they are not produced by Paramount. They were produced by Lucasfilm. Paramount was the distributor. And so at some point, whatever, like every distribution deal has its own unique agreement and license. So one of two things either happened. One, Paramount's distribution rights to those movies lapsed, in which case they can do whatever. Or two, and I can't remember off the top of my head which of the two options it is. Or two, at some point Disney said, well, listen, we own the films because they're Lucasfilm and we own Lucasfilm. So we would like to purchase the distribution rights back from you, Paramount. So it'll be one of those two factors. I can't remember which one it was for Disney in particular. All right, what's next?
From Josh Becker, do you think Spider-Verse can get #1 at the box office next for this weekend against Transformers? I haven't seen much hype for Transformers.
You know what? I said earlier, and I was, for some reason I had in my head that Transformers was the following week, because Ray, you brought up that it should still do really good second weekend. And I said, yeah, it doesn't really have any big competition. I was wrong about that. It's Transformers. That's right. That is this weekend. No, Spider-Man will not take #1 this weekend, because even if Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has a fantastic second week drop off of like say 50%, right? That means it's going to make $60 million. And I do believe, and that's if it only takes a 50% drop. I think it'll be a little bit higher than that, but let's say 50% drop. Okay. Then that means Transformers just needs to make 60. And I think Transformers will make 60. So I'm not willing to bet $100 on this. I don't feel super convicted about it, but my guess is that no, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse will not be. It'll still make a lot of money in the second weekend, but I don't think it's gonna be #1. What do you think, Ray?
I'm gonna go 70.
What? Transformers?
Transformers, yeah.
Okay, so you think Transformers will be #1 at the box office this weekend?
Yeah.
Because if Transformers makes
hard.
70, if Transformers makes 70, that means Across the Spider-Verse needs to take like a 40% drop. I can't remember the last time a big movie like this did that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Spider-Verse is such a good movie.
It's so good.
It's too bad. Because we're hearing that this Transformers movie is at least okay.
Yeah, I'm hearing good things about the new Transformers
And
movie.
the way I see these movies, we don't get them a lot. So when they come out, it's an event to me. For me personally, Transformers movie is out. Haven't seen one in a long time. Best place to see it in the theater. I'm gonna go see it. I'm just hoping a bunch more people feel the same way about Transformers, because there's still people reeling from the Michael Bay stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And have not seen Bumblebee, right, Jonathan? Have you seen Bumblebee?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
And it's a
because
great
of the
movie.
stink of the Michael Bay movies.
And it's so sad, because Bumblebee deserved a lot of the
It's
praise
great.
it got. It's the best Transformers movie, I think.
A
that's
lot of
out.
people I've talked to too don't think, like, they don't know that this is directed by somebody else. It's another Michael Bay movie.
Because it looks more like a Michael Bay movie than it looks like Bumblebee.
Yep.
Yeah, it does. But it's actually the sequel to Bumblebee. It's Stephen Cappell, who directed Creed 2, did a really good job on that. And the word is actually pretty good. The word is the movie's actually pretty good. So we'll see. All right, we got time for one more. What's last?
From Wicked Man. Have you ever seen the film Dog Day Afternoon?
Yeah, that's with John Cazale and Al Pacino, where he does like the bank robbery. And then
My God. You know, I don't know that I have watched that one.
Yeah, it's from like 75. It's a classic.
Yeah, but the first thing in my head was Wag the Dog. I don't know why that was in my. I was thinking Wag the Dog, but no, I have not seen that
John
one.
John Cazale. I can never remember, but he did the Godfather saga.
Yeah.
Deer Hunter. This I think he was in the conversation.
I
That was
only
it.
know the Attica thing because of Garden State, and it's not correctly
Well,
used.
and also they use that in Saturday Night Fever. John Travolta goes Attica.
Yeah.
Attica.
Gosh, I hate
but
that
it's from
movie.
it's from there.
Saturday Night Fever.
Saturday Night Fever. If you rewatch it, you're like, this is a horrible movie about horrible people.
Yeah. No, I
There's
mean
so much assault.
I like it, but you don't like the characters at
Yeah.
all. They're supposed to be like, these are terrible people. You don't if you're watching
You just described Succession.
yeah.
I just thought it was going to be about dancing, and there's
yeah.
a lot of
a lot of racist and rape and racism, not racism.
Yeah.
All right.
cool.
Guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Wherever you listen to this show or watch this show, thank you guys so much for that. By the way, for those of you who are listening to the podcast, there is a video version of this, a very simple video version of this podcast as well, that is available on Spotify if you'd like to watch it there. And it's also available to our YouTube channel members on YouTube. And starting today, actually, there is an ad-free version for our channel members who are director and producer levels or higher there as well. So we're making that available to our director and producer level members as well. A big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because being channel members, you supported our channel, but also you gave us great fun things to talk about. And we thank you guys so much for that. So for everybody in the room, Ray Ora, Jonathan Voico, Chris Carr,
Bye.
and my name, of course, is John Campea. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.